This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes launching your own website a breeze. Welcome back to New Rockstars. Let's talk about the best, most valuable, yet most underused weapon in Marvel Studios' arsenal, the Disney Plus special presentation, and what live-action stories this studio could tell as an amazing, confined, limited-budget one-off. Is this how the MCU could introduce Ghost Rider, or reveal the fate of Renslayer, or show us a Ten Rings fighting tournament, or fix everything weird about what they were gonna do with Kang?
I wanted to leave it for the crickets.
Oh, yes. So a note to the viewer, there is a cricket in our studio. We can't find him. He's in the walls. It's his studio now. He owns it. And we can't do anything about it.
Walls! Also, when you said, what are they going to do about Kang? We'll be using the cricket and not paying it for its time. Either way, this is The Sneak Peek, the weekly show on New Rockstars where we look ahead to the future of fandom. I'm here today, Jessica Clemons, with Erik Voss.
Hi, Jessica. They need to be doing more special presentations. And,
yes.
And I think there's like a lot that can be done here to just give the viewers what they want. In a conversation with thecomicbook.com this week, Marvel's head of television, Brad Winderbaum, teased that more special presentations are on the way. And I believe in the past, Kevin Feige have indicated that there are at least 2 that are in like active development.
We haven't heard anything, not a little inkling, no scripts?
There may be some scripts, but when they say active development, I think they're just drawing pictures. I think it's just Ryan meandering who's just like, this, and Kevin Feige's like, yeah, that looks good. Because, the script, I think, is like the last thing Marvel Studios does. It's like, oh, right, we need a screenplay for this. Eric Pearson, can you drive into the lot today? And he's like, I'm writing every other script's final draft for you. That's how Marvel Studios makes the magic. Marvel special presentations, though, are standalone specials on Disney Plus, usually under an hour in length, and highlight a set of characters either new to or already connected to the MCU. They even come complete with their own special intro fanfare composed by longtime Marvel collaborator Michael Giacchino. And we've had 2 of them so far, both released in 2022. Werewolf by Night, directed by Michael Giacchino and written by Heather Quinn and Peter Cameron. We also got the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, written and directed by James Gunn. Both of these specials were pretty well received, and fans have been eagerly awaiting more stories under this banner. So we're going to talk about what Marvel should be targeting next for its special presentation stories. We just had a really great conversation over on the break room earlier this week, talking about like what new TV series Marvel Studios might have in development and what they should be prioritizing. But a TV series is different than a special presentation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think with Marvel presentations, it is a good way to actually introduce a good character.
Yes.
I think it's a really good, like what they did with Werewolf by Night was a great idea. It's like, it doesn't need a series, but it also could be used as a special during Halloween time. And I'm like, oh, there you go. And now we have this character wandering, and then we can use it at any time. Yeah. So yeah, I want to see something that's like a split between a television show and something very small.
Right.
Something very tiny.
Yeah. Now, normally in TV programming, special presentations like this are like holiday-centric, right? So a Christmas special or a Halloween special, a Passover special. I'm just thinking of Rugrats. Rugrats did Passover specials.
Over in my head, I was like, he's going to bring up the third one's going to be one that we haven't seen. But we have seen a Rugrats
We
Passover.
have that. As a kid, as a little Catholic kid, that's how I learned what Passover was. And I'm like, this sounds so cool. Why aren't more TV shows talking about this?
That's true. I mean, they did a little bit of it. This wasn't a special presentation, but for the Knuckles show, they did do they had like 2 episodes that were like them celebrating. It was very chaotic, not as good as what the Rugrats did, but they tried.
In Star Wars, they did the Life Day, the Star Wars holiday special. That was an example. And they taught us all about Life Day and had a lot of weird cameos.
Oh, see, we could do anything. We could do any holiday. We could have an Earth Day one, and it would genuinely be like Rio Vidal. It's the Green Witch.
Or is it just Tiamat from Earth Day, who's just talking to us, and he's saying, I had a dream, I hope will come true.
You're joking, but I would love an Earth Day version with Tiamat, just because I want to see what that, coming out of the ocean, what it did to everything around it. Because it created earthquakes. It had to create a tsunami somewhere.
Tsunamis everywhere. And his like foot was sticking out of the other end of the globe, and it's just like his toes are wiggling like, he's in so much pain.
Get him out of here!
Get him out, just pull him out. Also, that's so much, that's like billions of cubic feet of rock that were displaced. They had to go somewhere.
Everything had to go somewhere after Tiamat arrived. That's how easy special presentations can be. Yeah. That's all I'm trying to say. And so fun to do.
I know what you're going to say. You're going to say that Tiamat was the rock that was there the whole time. And so he wouldn't displace rock. He already was that rock that was there. But just for him to crash out of the crust like that, I said displaced, not like vanished, displaced, which means there was now a void inside of the pocket that he was occupying before he started to emerge out of the planet. So like something should cave in. There should be sinkholes in Russia, I think. Right?
There's math here that makes complete sense. You're making sense.
There's
I'm just
math
not.
here.
I can't give it to you right now.
So when we talk about the difference between a film, a TV series, and a special presentation, and even we'll group in a limited series with a TV series, because like everything is, that line has been completely blurred and in a very confusing and annoying way. A film is when you have like a really great story, and what makes a good story is a character who goes on a journey and learns something and changes somehow. But in order for it to fill a full 2-hour film, that character's journey needs to have a lot of steps to it, and it needs to have like a very powerful theme that everyone can kind of universally connect to. There have to be other people who guide them on that quest, or maybe it's like a cautionary tale, it's a tragic story, and there's other people who are affected by their choices, right? So that's how you fill in a 2-hour story. And go read Aristotle's Poetics. But if you are doing a TV series, really it's a story about like a group of people in a location, and that's why like the great TV shows are really more about like the vibe of the place. Like Cheers, The Simpsons is really evolved to be the story of Springfield. The Office is a story about the workplace of the office. Parks and Rec is a story about that department in the town of Pawnee. The Sopranos is really a story about like New Jersey.
Yeah, that part of New Jersey,
right? The Wire is about Baltimore, et cetera, et cetera. So good TV shows, in order to have 100 episodes, really need to have a setting, a great location.
Yeah, it's true.
And then so that's why I think limited series are really trying to be movies that are spread apart. Like these Marvel shows really should be movies. Like,
no, they should be.
Yeah. The best one of them has been Loki, and it's because it's a story about a setting. It's a story about the TVA, ultimately. But what makes a special presentation different is it's like a singular episode, but it needs to stand on its own. So in order for it to be good in that regard, it's really about a singular character in a moment. And it's weirdly, it's going to sound annoying that I'm saying this, it's about the vibes. Like it's about just like capturing a vibe or an energy of the viewer where they are in their lives right now. And just trying to meet them there and just take them away a little bit, but you're trying to get inside their head of whatever they're feeling in the moment. So holiday specials are just trying to meet people in whatever seasonal vibes they're feeling. Werewolf by Night was activating the spooky horror feelings that we were feeling that time of year. And I think there have been other like, the Sherlock Christmas special, the BBC Office Christmas special. It's trying to get that vibe of like, when everyone kind of has holiday season blues, and people are just trying to hook up with each other. What's that feel like? And let's tell a story around that.
Let's tell a story around that. It's interesting though, because it also feels like and I don't know much behind the scenes of the Guardians holiday special, but it does seem like it was more like James Gunn brought it to the forefront, was like, hey, I have an idea, here's this. Werewolf by Night was released like in little theaters, was released randomly, weirdly, like it was like in like the indie film circuit. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting how they're approaching both these movies. Were they both approached by directors and they just wanted to make the content, or was it that they had different viewpoints that were like, oh, I want to make a cinematic film, I want to make a fun film? Special presentations are so interesting to me because it also feels like it's what they're trying to do with what Echo was. What was the Echo called technically? A presentation?
Yeah, Spotlight.
Spotlight. It feels like they're also trying to do spotlights, but they want it to be cinematic, but it's also like free and fun is the vibe. Yeah,
I think you and I have extreme skepticism for what Marvel Spotlight means, and it feels like it is coded in a way that I'm not crazy about.
I'm not over it.
Yeah, and we should get over it because it just feels like they invented something just for Echo to justify why they released it that way.
Nothing else is going to be a Marvel Spotlight.
Right? At this point?
Nothing else is going to be a Marvel Spotlight. At first, I was like, oh, it's because of budgeting. It's easier to be like, oh, this is the budget for Marvel Spotlights. This is the budget for this. And then I was like, but it's only Echo.
I talked to...
It's only Echo.
It's so far only Echo. And I talked to the writer, and she's like, yeah, when we pitched that show and we were writing it, we didn't know they were going to label it as Marvel Spotlight. We don't know what that means.
That's how you do your like damage control kind of being like, oh, okay, how do we do this? we'll just give it a different title.
Marvel Spotlight.
Ugh.
I think special presentation, though, is something that is kind of baked into the history of broadcast TV from the 70s, right? Like when they were pitching it at D23 in 2022, Kevin Feige and Giacchino were like, I remember growing up in the 70s, and then on ABC or CBS, they would have the special presentation card, and you just were like, oh, something interesting is happening. So there was like It, the original ABC It.
There was an ABC
Stephen King
It?
Oh, yeah. That's the one where it's Tim Curry.
Wait, what do you mean it's on? I know that one. It's a movie.
It was a made-for-TV movie.
I did not know it was made for TV.
I know, that was on ABC, folks. That's
ABC was like, that was a bad idea.
And they had all these warnings for kids. You would not get that.
I didn't know
now.
it went straight to TV.
It went straight to TV.
I did not know
it
that.
broadcast on ABC. There was a lot of marketing for it, and it was extremely popular. And then it released on VHS.
Yeah, because I have it on VHS.
So it's like it was a 2-night event. There was 2 different
That's
because it was like the
insane.
first half of the book. And the second half.
Because it's also 2 parts too.
Right.
Oh my god.
So and then there was the day after, I believe it was what it's called. It was in 1983, and it just kind of showed society what would happen if like nuclear decimation happened. And it was like right during the Reagan era, talks with the Soviet Union started to heat up again, and everyone's like, this God might actually happen. And it's from that like movies like The Terminator. In the 80s, you started to see like War Games, The Terminator. Like everyone was really freaked out about this in the 80s in ways that they weren't in the 70s. So they actually did like it was like a narrative thing, and there's an episode of The Americans where they watched it and everyone's just kind of like freaked out. That was a special presentation, but sometimes it would just be like goofy stuff. It'd be like Halloween stuff,
That's so interesting. I wonder what they're going to do, because it doesn't have to be holiday related. But that's again, I don't know. Marvel might be making that the vibe. Yes. They might be making that the vibe, because it's a good vibe. It's an easy vibe to be like, oh, it's a holiday special. Well, or like a holiday themed.
The thing about holidays is it's something that all of us are kind of going through collectively, right? So Christmas time, you can't avoid the decorations, the music on the radio, just the sweaters people are wearing, just the vibes of the time of year. So that's one way that you can say, hey, everyone is going through this right now. Why don't we program something that meets them there? So you kind of need, it doesn't have to be a holiday, but it can be something that collectively we as a society are all kind of feeling this way. So with that regard, let's do a COVID special presentation. I'm kidding. No, God, geez, could you imagine?
Isn't it technically Ryan Johnson's
Knives Out?
Knives Out was a COVID era. And it is
or the second Glass Onion.
Not only Glass Onion. Not only is it during the COVID period that he like wrote it, but it's like, oh, we're going to this island and cough in this like Weezer that makes you okay.
And you're good. And of course, billionaires have that.
Yeah.
I think Glass Onion might have been the one successful COVID era story that addresses COVID. Because every other time they do it in TV shows and movies, I'm just kind of like, please, can we not do this? I don't want to revisit that time.
I don't know how. I think it's because it's a billionaire mystery that it made it work. Because I genuinely was like, every time I keep watching COVID shows that are like, we're in COVID, I'm like, the limitations are too high that I don't know what's going on right now, and it's making me upset. Regardless, sorry. We're not going to make a COVID holiday special.
No, we won't. But in terms of Marvel, what has made a good special presentation? Like, what are the qualifications? What's the checklist that we're looking for if we want to categorize a story, if we're trying to find a good story that would be told this way, but we wouldn't want to save for a film, or we wouldn't want to do it as a TV show. We need a story that you can tell in under an hour. So Werewolf by Night was 53 minutes. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special was 42 minutes. It needs to be something that can be confined, that you don't want to see like this. It needs to have a beginning, middle, and end, and it needs to just be kind of a confined, lower stakes story.
It's hard because also Werewolf by Night I think is actually really hard to do. I don't know how that guy was able to make it under an hour, because Werewolf by Night is completely new to everybody, and you had to introduce this character, introduce everything, but also make a plot line, and he did.
Yes.
Or they did. I think it was a group of people.
Well, a second thing is you need characters that do not fit into existing stories, or just beloved characters that you could see in a lower stakes adventure. Yes. So Werewolf by Night was a new character who just like based off of the type of tone and genre he needs, there's nowhere else it's like a stylized black and white kind of horror show that we could have just tied him into. I arguably could have showed up in Moon Knight or in WandaVision or Agatha All Along, but that wouldn't be as fitting for the vision that Giacchino had for Jack Russell. And then for Guardians of the Galaxy, it was just like a simple holiday thing that they could shoot on the set that they already had for Volume 3. Yeah.
They could honestly, I'm not saying this would be a good idea, but they could do that for a lot of the movies that they already do. It's like, hey, you guys want to pick up and do like an extra 2 days and shoot this like script? And then it would be fine.
Yes.
They worked really good for Guardians. I'll give them that. It was easy for them to do, and they had fun, clearly.
And that brings us to our third qualification, and we're really just talking like studio execs here. Low budget.
Yeah. 100%.
It has to be a limited
cannot.
budget, and by low budget, we're talking about like $10 to $20 million, which is a lot of money. We understand, but for these Marvel productions, that's like one episode of their Disney Plus shows, one episode of Loki or whatever. You know,
one location. And you can do heavy work in that one location. I'm 100. If Werewolf by Night was able to make this entire maze and then another building and then use practicals, I think they can still make a lot of great things. If they're like, we're just gonna set this all in this one area.
Yes. So when we kind of break down, just very loosely break down the budget of productions, the length of production that's required is generally what we're talking about. So if it's multiple different locations, if a lot of exterior locations that you have to like pay licenses to close down a street, something that you can't shoot on a soundstage. Also, when you shoot like on location, you know, there's like weather conditions, there's like travel stuff you got to think about, the size of the cast, the talent that you book for it. You know, obviously Robert Downey Jr. costs $95 million.
That's the price of the entire.
So you want to think about people who are willing to work cheaper or for a lower budget. Singular location and limited VFX. That's a big thing. So Werewolf by Night did a lot of stuff practically, but they were very smart about their VFX because they did it black and white. And when you do stuff black and white, you can get away with certain kind of like
the fact that transformation is just like his shadow. I was like, yeah, you can do, and that's like, oh, so it just looks so good. It looks so fun. It was like 70s, 60s. I was like, this is the horror that I want. This is the horror that I need. But yeah, taking advantage of those full things they can do. This is the one time you want to use that Atlanta soundstage. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to go there. Start using Marvel's resources as much as you can making these videos. But what's
tough about Marvel doing this is like Marvel's reputation is a giant spectacle. They want to have, so you got to think about creative workarounds to give that spectacle without doing the same typical thing of a giant VFX battle.
Yeah. You know who would eat up a special presentation if you gave it to him? Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler, I think, would do. Sorry, I know this is kind of changes the subject. I was thinking of like, yeah, they're good at spectacles, and I was like, if they would have just gave Blade as a special presentation at first, I would have been so happy. I would have been so pleased, and it would have just been a Blade. It would have been a Blade special presentation.
I'd take that over what we're getting now, which is nothing.
You could have still gave it to us eventually.
Yeah.
It's just right now, it's like, oh, here's a special, we're ramping him up. Because that's the thing, is like, we still saw Guardians. We're probably going to see Jack Russell eventually in something else, just like randomly. I'm like, these people can still go on to do other things. And oh my God, we could have just easily made a vampire movie.
Right.
We could have easily made a vampire movie.
Agreed. But to put on my studio hat for a second, I think the fourth checklist is it has to be a character who wouldn't work on the big screen, but someone who might give you some interesting genre possibilities that actually work better on a smaller screen. So Werewolf by Night is a good example of that. I don't know if Werewolf by Night is going to make $500 million if you do that as a movie, but it is like a fun like risk you can take on TV. Blade, I have to imagine Marvel Studios is like, well, that has to be a movie because Wesley Snipes proved that that is a huge big screen franchise and a title that we have to put on a big screen to do the character service.
That's true.
So you have to identify characters that like, I don't know if people are going to line up around the block to see that character.
Could you do like Big Hero 6 for a live action special presentation?
You could, if you could find a way to do it practically and with a limited budget. Yeah, I think you could. I know that January is technically when the new year begins, but doesn't it feel like it should be September? Even if you're not a student, there's something about summer ending that makes you feel like it's time to get your head back in the game. And if you run an online business, that means making sure that you're making your website the best it can be using Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that provides you with everything you need to do whatever you need with your website. Squarespace is a massive asset library with everything you could possibly need, whether you're building your first website or polishing up one you've already got. Squarespace makes it super easy to customize your look, update content, and add features to make your website work exactly the way you want it to. If you're selling any other kind of physical goods, digital goods, or even a service, Squarespace makes it easy to build your storefront and grow your business. For instance, Squarespace makes it easy to sell merch. You can design your products, then save time and money by letting Squarespace handle the production, inventory, and shipping. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/newrockstars to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. You also have to kind of thread this needle. This is like our fifth thing of it has to be something that is bigger than a one shot. Because Marvel Studios has already done the Marvel one shots, right? Just like very micro budget. Like literally they book an extra 2 days on the set of Thor type budget. Unless it's Agent Carter or, the Peggy Carter one shot was its own kind of set. And they pulled off some amazing stuff there. But really what we're talking about is like, it almost feels like a 22-minute. We need something that's a bit longer than an hour, something that really transports us away.
Marvel One Shot feels completely different than what Marvel's presentation is. Marvel One Shot is like, it's also very funny. It's always very funny.
Marvel One Shots were released as like bonus features on DVDs. It needs to be something bigger than that, something that you can really market a TV programming slate around and encourage people to subscribe to your streaming platform for this thing. Lastly, what I was saying before, you think about the vibes. Sixth quality, vibes. Is this something that people are like, I need to schedule my week around me booting up Disney Plus and just being like, yeah, this is a great night.
See, that's why I think making it a holiday theme is what makes that so tangible. That helps so much to be like, oh, because during October, that's all anyone's doing is like, oh, we're only going to watch horror movies. And then during Christmas, like we're at home with our family, or during the holidays, during Thanksgiving, we're at home with our family. This is perfect time. Put it on. I'm like, it doesn't have to be a holiday special, but it gives you more leverage.
Yeah, but there's other ways you can do that, like with a horror vibe, with a musical vibe. Musicals are a great way to do that.
Musicals should honestly be their special presentations instead of putting in the full movie and people get upset with it.
A documentary can be its own kind of vibe. Something that's insightful, or a mockumentary.
I was gonna say, could you do a mockumentary
a satire or comedy can be that.
Okay, could technically Kumail's character in Eternals, could that be a special presentation?
Yeah, something that just kind of follows him.
Like as the star, not him as an Eternal, but him as the star.
Well, that would be like, I feel like that could be a one-shot territory. There would have to be some kind of crisis that he's involved with.
That's true. I get that.
Yeah, because if it just feels like Kumail is now meeting with agents, and then there's like Wong, and they're kind of running around, it feels like an episode of What If, right? Or it feels like it needs to have some kind of... And we're also thinking about episodes of What If. They're trying to do this, but like on a smaller animated scale.
That's true.
Or a larger animated scale in some cases. But it needs to be something that is like a bigger event than that. It needs to have consequences and stakes and weight to it, which Werewolf by Night did. The Guardians Holiday Special, maybe people feel less so.
I think it was just fun.
But because it was movie stars in it, people felt, And
it was just very fun. There was no really big consequences. This is why I think this is what Marvel Television or whatever what does that go again? I keep forgetting the name. Spotlight. This is why I think they were like, this is kind of what Spotlight is. Like
they don't know what Spotlight is.
They don't. And whatever. I'm not gonna get into it again.
So let's run through some pitches of what I think, if Marvel just releases or announces that they're going to do a special presentation with this. They have 2 in the works. Here's I'm going to just run through some options. I want to hear your thoughts as well. A Halloween special, Ghost Rider.
Yes.
Now, Ghost Rider was 2 films, the first of which fairly successful. Nicolas Cage, he has an arc on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 as a different version of Ghost Rider, but a Marvel Studios Ghost Rider Halloween special, yes, it does require VFX. I think that's going to be the biggest budget line item, is just the VFX of the flaming skull. But I think it is worth it. You can do some great motorcycle stunts in this. You can introduce a side of the world. It can be scary. It can be stunt forward. I think that would be, and then the vibes of it is like, we don't get a lot of like great car and motorcycle action in Marvel. That's like, if watching the Fast and Furious franchise or watching like Drive or the Fallout or Fall Guy in this year, like there is like an audience for people who just want to watch that kind of stuff. And I think there's something people would tune in for a special presentation of Ghost Rider that has that in the trailer for it.
I think the way to make it easier for Marvel would also be like, which I would want to see him more in like an underworld setting, but I think I'm like, you might have to do like him above ground again, like Nicolas Cage style. And we don't have to make this the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider. We could do a different Ghost Rider, do his origin story, his weird origin story, or we can just, we don't even have to do an origin story. He can just show up and be just a horrible person. I think I would love a Ghost Rider Halloween special. Would I like it more than a Blade one?
Yeah, I mean,
but I understand what you mean when Blade, they're already making Blade a movie, and Blade has to be a movie. I get it, but you guys you're taking your time. So
I think what it would be is Mahershala, they've already paid so much
Yeah.
money to him. So to justify that budgetarily as like a special presentation, they'd feel like, well, then why do we pay him all this money? That's
true.
like most of the budget now.
would you involve Ghost Rider with the other people from like the Midnight Suns?
I think in this special presentation, it should just be his
Yeah,
story.
100%.
And then in a movie, we should have a Blade
There
Midnight
you
Suns
go.
movie where Ghost Rider's a supporting character in it.
Is Mephisto a part of the team?
Yes.
Is Mephisto actually on the back of the motorcycle?
Yes. No, Mephisto needs to be introduced in a Ghost Rider story or a Midnight
Yeah.
Sun story. He might get a name drop in Agatha all along.
I'll tell you where he should
That's
be
fine.
showing up in Ironheart.
Right?
Go ahead, I guess.
We need to do a future
ahead, I
video
guess.
about like that's literally just called "Why is Mephisto in Ironheart?"
I am
Marvel,
so excited for
what are you
Ironheart,
doing?
and I keep forgetting and blocking out that Mephisto's supposed to be in it. Like I genuinely will not remember. And when it shows up, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I forgot that this weirdo shows up for a minute.
I think ultimately he's not going to.
I don't think
I think
don't-
they're gonna cut him
cut it
out.
out.
Of
It does
Yeah.
not need to be in there. But I do like Ghost Rider Halloween special. I'm here for it. I think they can make it a lot of money or make it like not costly.
Yeah.
There's a balance.
Now, I also wanted to look at the future of Shang-Chi. And there's been a lot of speculation going around this week that the next Shang-Chi movie is going to tie into Doomsday because Destin Daniel Cretton was directing Avengers Kang Dynasty. And the way Shang-Chi ended was going to set up Kang Dynasty. And that Marvel Studios might still be using some of those plot elements by just having Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom now as a villain of it. So really, they may say that like instead Destin Daniel Cretton is going to take that vision into Shang-Chi 2
Okay, yeah.
and it's going to be called Shang-Chi the Wreckage of Time, and it's going to be like a time travel story. Fine if that's what you're going to do with Shang-Chi, but we need to deliver on the fighting tournament.
100.
And so I think you could do a 10 rings a special presentation that is just like a Mortal Kombat, an hour-long Mortal Kombat type thing, and then it's just based off of the cameos and the stunts and fighting.
Do the
and that's
cameos
all.
have to be big? Do the
No.
cameos have
They
okay,
can
because that's what I'm
be-
saying. Make it random people from the comics.
Yeah.
Like I want not even just random, but like people that are prominent in the comics that we haven't seen yet.
Right.
Give me those fucking people.
Sea-level mutants. Sea-level mutants. So like,
literally. Oh my god, yeah, 100%.
yeah, just
throw them in there.
Omega Red and
Oh.
Morph, and that's it.
100%.
And I'm sorry if you consider Omega Red and Morph higher than C-list.
I
but I'm
think
just
people
saying.
would, but on paper they're not.
Well, let's see. If it's Morph, you do have like a VFX budget because there's shape-shifting involved. And, Marvel never figured that out with the Skrulls. So I don't trust them to figure it out with Morph.
That's true. But Omega Red is a great idea.
Omega
For him to
Red.
be fighting Omega Red would be so much fun to watch. That's a great special presentation.
Yeah.
I would love that. I'd
And
eat that up.
I would encourage them to find people with power sets that are not blasting beams of energy. Because that is the cheapest thing to do. It's just, you just tell the actor, just do this, and then we'll have light come out of your hands. I want to see, like, people have powers that are just, like, a bit different than that.
So do you want it like Werewolf by Night with the style of what the horror was? Do you want it like the old Mortal Kombat?
I want it like Enter the Dragon.
Oh,
I want it
shit.
like a
Yeah,
Bruce
that's
Lee
cool.
fighting
That'd be
tournament, and then
sick
you
as
have
hell.
just like a medley of interesting eccentrics who are
Yep.
fighting each other.
Shoot that on 35mm. I'm in it.
Because that's
I'm
kind of
in
what
it.
Werewolf by Night was, right? Like you got an island of misfit toys weirdos who are sitting around a room and they're all in competition with each other, and they die off one by one, and that's what like a great 10 Rings story
What's the
could
one
be.
with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Bloodsport?
Yeah, give me Bloodsport. I love Bloodsport. I would easily eat up. I love the Ghost Rider one, but I'm like, I would put the 10 Rings fighting tournament at the number one.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part would be making it under an hour. People would be so invested in that. But if you make it strictly just, you come to this place and you are fighting. That is it. We don't need any background on anything. Just show up to this island. They're about to have a tournament.
Right.
Like, that's all I want.
Yeah, I think the difficulty with doing that as a movie is like, if you try to do like even the Mortal Kombat movie,
I think you could still
they had to be like, oh, we can't just do a fighting tournament, and it's like, oh, that's all we want.
I think you could still make this a movie.
Oh,
and it
for
would
sure.
still be so good.
For
I
sure,
would
but you'd
eat
have to
that
have
up.
something else to it.
Yeah,
Like the
that's true.
fighting tournament would be Act 2 of this movie, and then Act 3 would be like someone rigged the fighting tournament, then we're chasing him across rooftops, and then big
Could you
explosion
imagine though
happens.
if they did make a second Shang-Chi and it was just this, and they did just jump into the tournament? They just jumped into I didn't have that emotion. I didn't have anything to care about. That would be amazing. I would. Oh God, yeah, I'd eat this up.
It's because like for a movie, you need a character who's like going through things. It can't just be the
100.
event. Like the fighting tournament could be the event that they build up to, but it can't be the whole movie. You need to have other things.
What
that
if
happen
there's
in it.
someone that's gonna bomb the tournament, and then he's just gonna have to find the bomb, but he's too busy fighting?
What you're pitching is miscongeniality, and
Damn
I'm here for it. I'll watch that. Yep.
Damn it. He is miscongeniality. Okay.
Also, sometimes special presentations, like some episodes of What If or some Marvel one-shots, can kind of like fill the gap. Like, think of what is a good MCU story that people would definitely subscribe to see. And I wonder if there is like this, it's almost like a what if pitch, but what if we saw a story of a Happy Hogan and Bruce Banner team up where they're trying to find the missing spider that got gamma irradiated, and this is a spider that bit Peter Parker. Now, they wouldn't be able to reference Peter Parker because it's Disney Plus. But imagine it's just these two men in their late 50s, Ruffalo and Favreau, who are just, it's almost like the movie Mouse Hunt. You remember Nathan Lane, Mouse Hunt, and then they're just chasing this spider around Avengers Tower.
Which one's Nathan Lane? Are you going to say Happy's Nathan Lane?
No. But, oh, yes. Well,
because I was like, you don't think it would be, honestly, I was genuinely like, you don't think those two would be kind of like boring to hang out with?
Those guys are just vibes. I just think like Ruffalo is vibe. Favreau is vibe. And Favreau, I think you could get cheap because he'll do anything for Disney Plus. And so the issue is, I feel like if you introduce a Hulk into the story, it immediately adds $10 million to the budget. Yeah, I think that's why She-Hulk was so expensive.
Because they're changing.
I think you have to just keep him Ruffalo.
Yeah,
and
him
maybe
as
have
Ruffalo
one
and
moment
Favreau
where he
would be
hulks
very
out
funny.
to catch the spider and it doesn't work, and that's. But like otherwise, he's not Hulk for most of it.
Okay.
What? That's your number one now? Is what you're saying?
No, it's not my number.
Okay.
That 10 Rings tournament. There's no way I think you've pitched the 10 Rings tournament before, like because you were like, this is what it should have been. For
a movie.
for Mortal Kombat. You were like, Mortal Kombat was bad. It should have just been the tournament, and we didn't really get to the tournament. Well, I don't think we really even got to a tournament. Didn't we just see them fight? There
was no tournament. Yeah,
and then it went to the other two people fighting.
Yeah, it was like the Golden Ring, or the Macau Fighting Club, right? It was just fights were happening, but there was no bracket. That's the thing. We need a bracket for it to be a tournament.
That's why I was like, I like a bracket tournament fighting movie more than like a Fast and the Furious car movie. But that's just me, and that's why I'm like, out of all of these, I think that would be like. Marvel, if you're listening, that would be a great special presentation. Like, I don't think there's anything more right now than people are so into than like the Shogun era. Like like they want samurais, they want fighting, they want like martial arts, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is really a good time to like really hone in on this.
There's also something we could do is like. If they hadn't already made all these plans with Wanda, they've already done Multiverse of Madness. She could return in Vision Quest or in Agatha All Along, hopefully. There could be just like a fun Wanda Maximoff Mother's Day special. And I don't know what the story is. Like, it'd have to be her relationship with her mom. Yeah. And I don't know if that's something that like has like an action forward thing. It would be like kind of a witchcraft story.
It's hard because they all have really bad mommy issues.
Yeah.
And I like genuinely like horrible traumatic times, most of them. So it's like, oh, that's like the only mom one you could do, because if you did like Chris Pratt, Star-Lord's mom, that's just really sad. That's just a really sad story.
Some of the TV series that we pitched on the Break Room episode were things like doing an Agents of the TVA thing. And you imagine you can get 100 episodes out of that, right? It stays in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's in the TVA.
Yeah.
And it's just like time cops fixing stuff and dealing with historical crises. You could do like a Nova series following a character. You wouldn't probably want to put the budget of Nova in a special presentation. There's like Heroes for Hire starring Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and we just pretend Iron Fist didn't exist. And like there's like you can get 100 episodes out of that, and just kind of continuing Jessica Jones and Luke Cage from the Netflix show. You know, those are like TV series. Are there other like standalone one-off stories that you think should work as special presentations?
When I want a special presentation, I do just want them to introduce new characters. Like I was so enamored with Werewolf by Night to the degree that I was like, this is such a great way to introduce a new character, because the stakes for us in the MCU is what they want with the other thing, Marvel Spotlight. I'm like, the stakes aren't high, and it's just really, or like for the MCU overall, this is very fun. This is just something I can tune into, and also it's cinematically like gorgeous. I'm very into this. So I just want them to introduce new characters. But again, that 10 Rings, 100%. I would take that in a heartbeat. For Halloween, I do want like any of the Midnight Sun members. Maybe not Moon Knight, because Moon Knight has his own
His own
like
series.
big thing. But I do like a Ghost Rider introduction like that. If they didn't take on the Blade movie, I would have said Blade was a great special presentation.
Yeah.
But
You bring up Moon Knight, and I feel like there were some things that Marvel has done as these limited series that was spread across 6 episodes that maybe could have worked better as a special presentation. So do you think Moon Knight would have been better as a special presentation?
I think Moon Knight would have been a really good special presentation.
Yeah.
I think that would have been excellent because there's also so much in Moon Knight. Moon Knight himself was the best part of Moon Knight. There was so much other shit going on. I'm sorry, I didn't need Ethan Hawke's entire whatever this was. So I think that minus that, you give a special presentation, it would have been great. But I'm glad they gave him his own show because then it put him on a pedestal.
Yeah, I think Moon Knight could have worked better as like the whole thing starts in like just jumping around from realities of like the psychiatric hospital to the underworld boats that they're on to what to him, and it's just the whole show is just him driving through the Alps on this crisis and like figuring out like
taking those major parts, and then it would have been that 1 hour.
Yeah, I think that could have been just as true of a story of Mark Spector and Stephen Grant, and like and then so it's bouncing around from that and then to Egypt, and there's this other reality where he's with, everyone in Egypt. Like that could have worked as a special presentation that had a limited budget.
I'm not even trying to be this mean. I'm truly not trying to be this mean. I think Eternals would have been great as a special presentation. Just that, and not even like as a holiday special, but that introduction of all of them and what they were doing in their past to what they're doing now. I was more enamored with what their jobs were before they were like the fact that one of them was creating like the atomic bomb, like the one like they were making mass weapons. They thought they were doing great, and I'm like, I'm really interested in that. I want to see what else in history they were like just watching or tried to help in and didn't work. Okay. We get the Wakanda. We get the Wakanda story. We get the Wakanda history, and they're just like, I'm staying here.
World War II.
Yeah. Where was everybody? Where were all the Eternals when we were all getting yanked?
You have to imagine that they did everything they could.
I'm trying.
And they just didn't do enough.
I'm sure Makari could have sped her ass there and did something.
Just snap Hitler's neck.
Yeah.
Get him out.
Easy. Or, ram people out. Come on, girl. What you doing?
I think Eternals would have worked better as a 6 or 8 episode series.
You
just
think?
with the number of characters. You could do an episode, a full Fastos episode where it's just him advising the Manhattan Project and then sobbing at the end. You could have done a whole episode just with Icarus, Icarus and Cersei.
Like that's such a niche audience, I feel like. Yeah. I would have ate that up.
Yeah.
I would have ate that up.
It would have been better than a movie, I think.
It would have been better.
So here's a kind of difficult question. We talk about Echo and Spotlights. Would Echo have worked better as a special presentation?
No.
You don't think so?
No, Echo is to be fair, Echo's very dense. And I'm sorry, but I think we created that story and made it that dense that I don't think we would have been able to share that in a special presentation.
I think if you take out some of the side characters.
Oh, well, even her powers though, I was like, this is more than an hour.
Yeah, because that show was like 4 different things, it felt like. And if you just made it a show about her relationship with Wilson Fisk as she's trying to reconcile her ancestry, I think just that moment of her healing Wilson Fisk in his childhood bedroom, and then like I think you could tell that story in under an hour. You would lose a lot of what people loved about Echo, though.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't think it could have been a special presentation. There's so much going on in that show.
We'll see with Agatha all along, right? Agatha might have been better, but I don't know. It sounds like the way they're telling it with like the trials of the Witch's Road needs to be episodic in that regard.
And I think it's going to be very fun. But if you would have told me like, oh, Agatha's going to be a special presentation, I still would have been stoked. I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. And it's probably gonna be great.
The story that was eventually told with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you would have to maybe lose John Walker. Have to
that's
lose,
the best part.
Yeah, or you definitely lose the Flag Smashers.
Oh,
you have to lose whatever
the disease.
Yeah, the disease subplot.
The part that makes that a vibe is Bucky's like sadness and Bucky's like art.
Oh, you lose Zemo. You have to lose Zemo for that to fit an hour.
Easy. But I was like, that's
because you lose
you lose this, and I am not losing. I'm not losing John Walker smashing that man with the shield. I cannot lose that scene. That scene is insane.
I think the question is if you can pitch this if it would be a story that was pitched as a TV show with episodic components, then yeah, like Loki, the fact that they were visiting different eras of time, that's the show that we thought it was going to be, and what it ended up being is this weird kind of like mystery story that revealed new layers to it as it went. But like at least like you can imagine, oh, they're working case files. It almost feels like a procedural in that way. They pulled a fast one though. Well done, Waldron. But I think with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it almost feels like a movie. And if it feels like a movie, I feel like a movie is easier to turn into a special presentation than a TV show is to turn into a special presentation.
100%.
Yeah.
I also feel like the ones we haven't heard from, Warhammer cannot be a special presentation.
Oh, yeah.
That easily cannot.
I think you're going to find in the future some mutants can be introduced through special presentations.
Yes.
So, like, you can do a Dazzler special presentation.
I would eat that up. That's what I'm saying. Give me those ones. Give me those ones. Give me a Dazzler one where I'm like, I don't really need her on the main team right now.
Yeah, because I think we need, people keep talking about we're going to get an X-Men movie. I'm like, we could get a Storm series or a Storm movie. We could get a Cyclops movie.
What? I could see them giving Storm a presentation.
But she should get more than that.
I agree.
She's an A-lister.
I agree. I agree. I agree with you. But I do think I could see them doing like, if they did the like her Wakanda kind of storyline where she like came
T'Challa?
I could see them we wouldn't see T'Challa completely, but I could see them doing roots like her where she came, like how she started as a special presentation, because she's so beautiful and so is her history that I'm like, that's so enriching that it probably looks really good as a special presentation. But she does deserve her own movie. I get it. I agree.
I mean, you could do like a Jubilee, but I know Brandon somewhere his ears are burning to do a Jubilee special presentation.
We don't need
which
a
is just
Jubilee
something similar to the first episode
She's
of
just
the X-Men
DJing?
animated series in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
The Night of the Sentinels.
She's running
Jubilee
away from her home.
Yeah, that could be interesting. But at that point, you have to have introduced the X-Men in some other big screen way in order to justify some excitement for
100%.
So let us know in the comments below which of these you would definitely subscribe to a streaming platform for at least a month and then cancel the next month to go watch, or you'd at least watch a new Rockstars breakdown of, because Marvel Studios, is watching and they're like,
do the 10 Rings tournament. I'm not joking. I would start a subscription and kept it if that was on that list. I already have a subscription. But if I was a new viewer, I'd be like, I'm in it. I'm eating it. Even that is like a video game. Would be so sick.
Like, yeah, like a combat between mortals, and you spell combat with a K, and then you can...
They're immortal.
You can have one who's a movie star with sunglasses, and then you can have another one. Hold on, this it sounds familiar. One who's like kind of reptilian. One who can blast ice that's so cold it's below zero.
If they made Marvel Rivals, which is Overwatch, I'm sure they can make a Mortal Kombat game that's called 10 Rings Tournament.
It's the same thing, but instead of finish him, it's like complete.
Instead of finish him, it's completed.
In Tim.
It's in Jarvis's voice.
I think special presentations just like confine your budgets. You can still have great stories, and if you want streaming subscribers, that's the way to do it. And you can still build out your world that way without having to commit to 6 episodes of something.
100%.
Oh shit! But did we just deprive actors of more of a living by saying you can only be in one thing versus 6? Oh god!
Marvel's hiring only Angelina Jolie's and those ones.
What have we
until they're giving me smaller name actors? Then I agree. Hey. No more Robert Downey Jr.'s 95 mil.
Just him. Because I think it will probably end up being worth it. This is going to be like $4 billion
I could
movies.
do it for 95 million. Me in the little suit. Me in the Doom suit. Hello. That's my Doom voice. I don't think that's how his voice sounds.
I don't mind that he gets paid $95 million. This is just why we need to tax people who make that much more money, and then that's what the job of the government is for. Tax the shit out of
that money.
Take $60 million of that.
Tax
at least.
that money.
And then state of California, take another $20 million of that. So at the end of the day, he's only taking home like $10 million of it.
Oh,
and then he's got to donate some to charity.
Donate it to me. My name's Charity.
All right, comment down below. Follow Jessica at Lulu_Clemons. Follow me at EA Voss. Subscribe to all 3 channels of the New Rockstars Network. And again, go check out that break room episode where we're talking about what TV shows, because you can kind of see how the real difference of like what makes a good episodic show. And let us know what you want to see Marvel Studios do. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.